So, hi everyone, welcome to the fourth meeting of the winter quarter. And today we are hosting Seth Suzuki. Oh, sorry. And before we get started, we're gonna talk about rules first.
So please respect all the officers and guest speakers during the meeting. You can do so by muting yourself while the hosts are speaking and using appropriate language. And then any disruptions during the Zoom will result in a kickout. So this meeting is also recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you're not comfortable by being on YouTube, just save your questions until the end of the recording. Thank you.
If you could,
This is our agenda. First starting with the guidelines and club info for 4 to 4:15, and just a reminder for Zoom etiquette. And then we'll introduce Seth at 4:15, or he'll introduce himself, and then at 4:35 we'll have questions until 5 p.m. and then we'll have an outro and a Kahoot.
So as always, for this meeting, you can earn a maximum of 2 points. 1 point by signing in the beginning of the meeting, and 1 point signing out at the end with the word of the day. And additionally, if you're unable to make it to the meeting, then we have a recording. And with it, just submit it to the beginning.
and I pasted the sign in form in the chat.
Okay. And additionally, we also have extra credit and Kahoot. So you can earn extra points by either joining the Kahoot or sending us valid information in community service.
And the reason why we have this is because at the end of the quarter, the person with the all the points are entered in the raffle, and you have a chance to win a gift card, a $10 gift card. So if you attend for free, you have a chance to get $10. And I do want to mention that we did add some benefits of becoming an active member. We sent that out in our emailing list, but it's not on the slide. But if you're an active member, you can basically have several benefits, including priority over officer elections, invitations to our June 2023 banquet, and a certificate, and basically just thank you posts and appreciations. So yeah, we'll probably make a slide next quarter with more details about that.
And for the tentative event, so for April through May, we might have a CRNA guest speaker, which is a nurse anesthetist. And for May, we might have another health professional speaker. Right now, we're still trying to see who. And then for June, we have a MOA formal event. So kind of like a special, end of the year event. So yeah, we like our members to join for the event.
Yeah, that's the MOA formal is what I'm talking about. So make sure to sign in. And as always, we have an active opportunity spreadsheet. So we'll give you guys a second to scan it, because I don't have the link right now. But if you're interested in virtual shadowing opportunities, volunteering, webinars, conferences, stuff like that, then you should definitely check it out. But I'm gonna move on.
And so those are our social medias. If you want to get connected with us, you can scan the QR code, or also check out our Instagram, our email, and our YouTube channel.
I'll give 1 second. Okay.
Oh, and then for the content agenda, we're going to start with an introduction and background, and then we'll move to what is a physician's assistant and the PCE. And then after that, we'll go to a schedule for a dictated year for physician's assistant school. And then we're gonna finish with encouraging working for us. That's an
Words.
introduction.
It's okay. Okay, so now, finally, we're gonna introduce our guest speaker, who is a De Anza alumni. His name is Seth Suzuki, and he's currently a PA student and at EMT. And would you like to introduce yourself even further?
Yes, of course. Yes, I'm just. stand right here,
Yeah, you could.
or- You guys can have a seat. It sounds like-
Yeah, you guys could
Yeah.
sit
You're
down.
so
I feel like
comfortable.
there's so many seats.
Grab snacks, you guys can sit.
I can control it. It's all
Okay,
good.
thank
have a
you.
seat too.
Thank you.
You want me to just stand right here?
Yeah, you could just stand
Okay,
right
sounds
there.
good.
Honestly, whatever's more comfortable.
Again, my name is Seth Suzuki. I'm a first year student at AT Stills in Santa Maria. So a little bit about me is that I grew up all over Northern California. I was born in Vallejo. I then moved to San Jose, then actually moved to Tracy. I went to high school in Tracy, California. Then I moved back to San Jose for community college. Did 2 years at De Anza, transferred in 2017, and I went to UCLA, graduated in 2019. And I did a few years of gave my patient care hours, and in 2022, that's when I got accepted into PA school. So again, I'm from Aptos, California. That's where I currently live. It's a little town south of Santa Cruz. Some interests aside school, I love sports. Here's me with my judo team at UCLA. I love mixed martial arts. My favorite basketball team are the Lakers. Any Lakers fans here? Yeah. I'm also a Raiders fan, and I love spending time with my family and friends. Here's a picture of me and my girlfriend in Oahu in Hawaii. So some more about my family. On the left is my dad. He just became the chief, the battalion chief of Milpitas Fire recently in April. Here's my mom in the middle. She's an ICU nurse. She currently works with Kaiser in Watsonville for family clinic. And here's my girlfriend. She's actually in the crowd right there. She's a CNA at Kaiser Santa Clara. So for my educational background, again, I'm a De Anza alumni. I graduated in 2017 and I transferred then into UCLA and I graduated in 2019. And my major was actually geography. And a lot of people might think, why did you choose geography as like a pre-med? The truth was I wasn't a pre-med back then. I was more just trying to like discover who I was back at UCLA, back at De Anza. I was more towards the environmental side, but when I kind of realized it in 2000 or in my junior year at UCLA, where that wasn't going to work out in the long-term run. So my mom gave me some advice and she was like, why don't you check out this career of being a PA? So I did some shadowing, actually talked to a PA at her urgent care when I was sick, and he gave me advice and I kind of just followed down that path of becoming a PA. But for like a little joke, everyone thinks that I'm a geology major, but I always tell them geology rocks, but geography is where it's at. So no one, so that's what I tell everyone, but they still call me a geology major at school. So after graduating UCLA in 2019, I took my prereqs at both Foothill and De Anza College. I took, and I think I took all my anatomy at Foothill College. Then I took anatomy, physiology, and microbiology. Then I just retook any prereqs that I had lower than a CN at De Anza. Then during my gap year from 2019 to 2022, I worked as an EMT, inpatient physical therapy aide, and an ER tech at Watsonville. I'll get more into that later, but again, I go to AT Still Central Coast PA program down in Santa Maria. So what is the PA? Is there anyone in the room that doesn't know what a physician assistant is? Everyone kind of knows the general background of PA, but so this is my definition of what a PA is. I had to explain to like, when I was working as an ER tech, people would ask, oh, what is a PA? And I tell them this definition straight up. So a PA is an advanced provider that goes through extensive graduate level training. Upon licensing and credentialing, a PA can diagnose illnesses, develop and manage treatment plans, prescribe medications, and perform procedures. And PAs also work in collaboration with other healthcare professionals such as doctors, nurses, and respiratory therapists. So how do you become a PA? First, you want to obtain your bachelor's degree. I think most programs accept any type of bachelor's degree. It doesn't have to be in any sciences. It could be in whatever major you want. Classes you must take. I think I kind of pulled these classes from looking for admissions of like what every school kind of required. You had to take anatomy, physiology, general chemistry, at least a year chem, a year biology, statistics, microbiology, and psychology. I highly recommend taking Spanish, especially if you plan on practicing in California. This is not just for PAs, but if you want to go into nursing as well or becoming a medical doctor, DO, whatever, I highly recommend taking Spanish because when I worked as a tech at Watsonville, I would say 70% of my patients only spoke Spanish in the ER. And I'm kind of like grateful I took Spanish in high school, and that kind of helped me kind of translate over, but I highly recommend taking Spanish. And I did take a quarter or two here at De Anza, and the professors here at Teach Spanish, they're really good. For patient care hours, I highly recommend over 1,500. There's some examples of patient care hours are EMT, CNA, paramedic, medical assistant, or being a physical therapy aide. Each program has different prereqs, so it's important to look up each unique requirement. And finally, when you're ready, you have to apply on CASPA, which is the centralized portal for all PA applicants. So going to my patient care and volunteer experience at UCLA, I became an occupational therapy volunteer at this UCLA Sunel Institute. What's unique about UCLA Sunel Institute is that they do a lot of psychiatry residency there, and they do a lot of neuro studies there. So I worked with a bunch of pediatrics that had psychological disorders such as autism, schizophrenia. They also had other cognitive development issues. So that was my volunteer hours. I probably accumulated close to 200 over there. But for my patient care hours, again, I took that during I did this for my gap year. I worked as an EMT. I worked on a critical care ambulance, which means I didn't work the 911 system, but I worked with critical care nurses. So we would mainly do ICU to ICU transports. Then I became a rehabilitation aide at Regional Medical Center. I wasn't just an outpatient PT aide. I worked on the inpatient side, so I worked more on the ICU trauma side. So I worked with a lot of stroke patients, a lot of patients that got into motor vehicle accidents. And I worked with I actually started this during the height of COVID. So a lot of COVID patients that needed rehabbing. Then my most current job before becoming a PhD student was becoming ED tech at a Watsonville Community Hospital. What's unique about Watsonville is that it's does anyone know where Watsonville is out here? It's a really small rural town just of Santa Cruz County. It's a little north of Monterey. It's primary agriculture there. That's why, like I said, recommending taking Spanish, but it's a really tiny hospital in a really small rural town. So here's a picture of my squads. On the left here is my rehab team at Regional Medical Center. I think this is taken during Halloween. That's why we're all wearing mustaches. Let's see, the one on the right was actually my last day at Watsonville. It's my ER team. Yeah, that's pretty much my team that I worked with. So for PA school, I'm gonna go down through my schedule, what a day of the life being a PA student is. So on Mondays, we have a class called Patient Assessment. And what patient assessment is, or what this class is about, is just going through our skills, learning how to take an HPI, which means taking a history of a patient. And so we'll do that our first half of the day. But for our second half of the day, what we'll do is just work on skills, such as working on ultrasounds, doing EKGs, learning how to insert catheters. And Tuesdays, so we have class. So for our Tuesday classes, it's remote. It's only for an hour. But what professional practice is, it's just really learning how to interact, the social skills of interacting with your patients, and also working on the ethics of being a provider and learning about the laws and the statutes of becoming a PA. So Wednesdays, we have Clin Med. So what maybe chose AT Stills was actually how unique it is. We don't have the traditional death by PowerPoint lecture. What we do is before class or a week before class, they'll send us material of the recorded lectures, and it's our job just to like self-study, self-learn. Then on days when we have class, so we're kind of groups about the size of these tables right here, and what we can work on are case studies. So for example, our professor would give us like a case. For example, a patient comes in chest pain, so we work with our group to see what this patient has. So we'll order some tests and we'll try to come up with the whole treatment plan for this patient. And at the end of the day, we actually had to present to our professors on what we think is the final diagnosis, and they'll review our treatment plan. And we'll do that again on Friday. So Thursday, there's no class. So it's more of a self-study day, trying to catch up on things. Because if you guys heard the analogy of what PA school is like, it's actually like trying to drink out of a fire hose of the material you're gonna get. And for Friday, like I said, for Friday, it's the same thing. They're gonna give us another case, and it's our job to like see what the diagnosis is and present it back to the faculty at the end of the day. And Saturday and Sunday are just more of preparing and self-studying for quizzes and exams. So university versus PA school. You guys probably heard this before, but PA school is extremely difficult, but in a different and unique way. I'm saying this because of the amount of information presented to the students. But if you have a growth mindset in undergrad, you guys will definitely do great in graduate school. And I would say De Anza professors, they will prepare you all on transferring and going on to grad school. So anyone here's taken Professor Macaulay or Simon Conga? Any of those professors? They might have, I think Simon's still here, or Professor Conga's still here, but I think Professor Macaulay just retired. But those guys honestly prepared me well on going to UCLA, and because of the amount of information and the way they test you guys. But I'm pretty sure, I'll be honest, De Anza, honestly, their professors, I've never had a single bad professor here, to be honest. All the professors are honestly great, and I believe all of them prepare you on to transferring or going on to graduate school. So here's my team. This is actually my team back at school. This is like where we work. This is like our table that we work in all day. And I guess they wanted like a Grey's Anatomy photo shoot right here, but yeah. So each term we have a different group. And so there's 90 of us. So I think it's the program's way of trying to get to know everyone and trying to work with different personalities. But this was my group last term to work with. So if I could do it all over again, I would say I would get my EMT license during my undergrad. I got my EMT license right after I graduated from UCLA. There are programs where you can complete an EMT course over the summer. I think Foothill has a EMT program. I believe it's a quarter long. Highly recommend doing that because I think that's a perfect amount of time to get your EMT license. If you can, but I guess there are some programs that I've heard in the Bay Area that can get your EMT license over the summer. If I were to do it all over again, become a biology major or health science major. This way you can apply to more programs and have a smoother transition into applying to PA school. I know some PA programs like Stanford, they require upper division biology, and that's why I can apply to some schools like Stanford. But again, most PA schools accept any type of major, but I would highly recommend being a bio or health science or health related major. And her words of encouragement. The first one, I would say for your patient care hours, I highly recommend a career in the EMS field. or something that has a lot of hands-on experience, or some like a job that really uses your critical skills or your judgment skills. An example would be being an EMT, a paramedic, or an ER tech. And I'm saying this because there are going to be situations as a PA where you have to critically think. You can have a patient just sitting there, you're talking to them, trying to get history, then they faint for some reason, or they go into arrest, and you really have to quick, because I've seen this in the ER. They're talking to the patient and the patient just randomly faints. You really have to use your critical thinking skills. That's why I highly recommend being something in the EMS, or working as something as in the EMS field, especially if you can be a paramedic. Try to work in the underserved communities or rural communities, because a lot of PA programs value this, because the reason why PAs were made was for the shortage of primary care physicians. So the goal of the AAPA and the other schools is to have more providers, PAs, nurse practitioners, physicians in underserved communities. I would say apply as early as you can to CASPA. Even if it opens in late April, I highly recommend starting it in January, because it takes time for your essays to get proofread, and CASPA is a long process. Not only you have to work on your essays, you have to input all your transcripts, you have to put all your patient care hours. So honestly, it took me probably like 3 months to get my application done. So each school has its own prerequisite. Look at each program's website. It's super important because, for example, some schools require OChem and others don't require the GRE. So really take a look at each program's prerequisites. I would, again, volunteering in the underserved communities. It doesn't have to be healthcare related. You can do food banks, homeless shelters, community cleanups. So I highly recommend any type of volunteer in underserved communities. Take a gap year, please, please, please. If you plan on becoming a PA, take a gap year, because the next 2 years are going to be, it's a lot of time and demand from yourself. Take time to travel and spend time as much as you can with your family before entering PA school. And if you get a rejection from PA school, don't give up. There's a reason why this profession is always in the top 3 healthcare. What a mentor told me was, just when you apply, have that feeling of you're gonna get rejected, because to be realistic, a lot of programs only accept 45 to 90 students, and you're competing against 2,000 other applicants. So, but for my advice here is just to really help you guys, and if you guys plan to go in PA school, to really stand out for yourself, because they really take into consider it if you speak Spanish, if you work in the other underserved communities, if you have high patient care hours, and if you have a lot of volunteer experience. And that's my presentation of how to become a physician assistant. And
So let's take a picture before we move on to the Q&A session. So if you would like to be in the picture, please turn on your camera. And how are we gonna do this? What if yeah, we could come in like here and like huddle together or something, and then take a screenshot, because yeah. So if you like to be in the picture, please turn on your camera. And I see someone said that they're currently taking Kanga. Okay.
oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. 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 I'll take the picture in. I think I'll do the whole entire screen. So I'm blocking someone. Wait, our guest speaker isn't in the picture. He isn't in the picture. Okay. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2. Okay. I feel like I'm blocking someone, but Okay, I think that's it. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the Q&A session. So if anyone has any questions that they would like to, about if anyone has any questions for Seth about PA or whatever the transfer process or whatever, please put it in the chat. But if not, I'm gonna start. Oh shoot, let me share my, oh, there's another.
Yeah.
There's right here. Okay, so we have a question in the chat.
All right, let's take a look.
The first question is,
Let's see what the first question. Sorry.
oh, no,
Oh, it's right there.
It's right
Sorry.
here. Yeah, what's the difference between a PA and a physician?
That's a great question. So a physician. That's actually a great question because there's many different ways that people have different. So I'll go with the similarities first. So both a PA and a physician, we're both medical providers. A PA is more advanced provider, while a physician is a physician. But so a PA actually works under a physician. We have less autonomy than a physician or physician MD or DO does. And that, so in that stating, so a PA can't do surgery. They can only be a first assist towards a physician. So, and also or doctors, they go through more schooling than a physician. So a physician goes through more schooling. So they go through 4 years of medical school plus 3 to 7 years of residency, depending on what specialty. For a PA, it's only 2 years of school, but it's the main differences are levels of autonomy. But we can do mainly the same things what a physician can do. Like we can suture, we can come up with treatment plans, we can diagnose illnesses, but we have to work under a physician. And if a physician doesn't like our plan, they can always override what a physician or what a PA would do. Did you consider becoming a physician? I did not actually ever consider being a physician. The reason for me becoming more of a PA was what I just stated, was the level of autonomy. I didn't want all the autonomy what a physician does. I wanted more of a team-based collaboration of working with other healthcare members, while a physician kind of has to oversee more of the patients. For example, working the ED. So even though the PAs would have their own patients, like I stated, a physician, like if a physician did something in the ER that, or if a PA did something in the ER that the physician didn't really like or consider, the physician can overturn what the PA could do. What are opportunities where we can get underserved community? That's a great question. I would say there's a good amount of areas around here. I would just contact any local San Jose food banks or any homeless shelters. And that's a way that you can get your volunteering for the underserved communities. And how long is PA training in school? So it ranges from 2 to 3 years. My program is 24 months. There are some programs where you can do residencies, like Stanford has a cardiothoracic residency for PAs to advance more just in a surgical specialty, but that's more optional. And PAs, we get more of our training on the job, while physicians get more of their training through residency after school.
And I have a question.
Yeah.
That I always ask the guest speakers. How do you deal with burnout, and how do you cope with that?
That's a great question. We actually, in that professional practice I was talking about, we actually talked about provider burnout, and it is such a major issue that's going on these days, especially with the pandemic. From a personal perspective, working in the pandemic, especially the height of pandemic, was extremely stressful. I remember working in the ED, and we would just have lines of patients outside the ER just waiting just to get a COVID test. Not even then, we would have ambulances bring the sickest of the sick into our ED. And what can you feel? You can just feel being burned out. But the best way of, I would say, coping is just talk about it. Honestly, just talking about it with your peers, your colleagues. And that was a way for me to cope, just talking about it, just getting off my checks, and also exercising. Exercising helped me a lot. For school, even though the PA, like a lot of PA students do get the concept of burnout, I would say just having a set schedule, just make like physically write out a plan. And the person who actually helped me with this, that kind of translate, was actually Professor Simon Tonga. I was actually failing his class in the first half, and he kind of like wrote down a plan for me because I didn't use that concept of having a planner. And he actually wrote me a whole plan on how to study for his class. And I actually like carry this through UCLA then into PA school, and it seems like it works. So I give a lot of credit to Professor Tonga on that. So really, to prevent burnout, it's just having a set schedule and also collaborating with your colleagues to prevent excess burnout, because you can always collaborate, like you can always break up work and talk about it with your peers.
And then just kind of moving on from that, what would you say was the most difficult part of your journey through like undergrad or AAMT and then going to PhD?
Ooh, that's another good question. I would say the hardest part was the weight game of getting into UCLA and the weight game of getting to PA school, because you've done the work, because that's what you did, but it's up to the faculty and the admissions committee to see if you're going to get in or not for both your university and grad school. So I would say that would be one of the hardest journeys, or one of the most difficult situations I faced going to PA school and into undergrad. But another one would say just dealing with the pandemic, as working as an EMT, ER tech, and rehab aide. It just took a lot because we didn't know what this virus was.
I just want to make a comment that we're currently waiting.
You guys
We're on
are?
that waiting game right now. They're releasing next month.
Yeah.
For the UC specifically.
Yeah.
So I just want to.
I would say just distract yourself during that time. Yeah. Dominique, she can tell you every day, every morning, I check my phone, refresh when I woke up, refresh, checking my emails. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Check it like once a day. I would check it.
Now there's like blogs that predict when it's gonna come out.
Yeah, I use the PA forum. You can always check out the PA physician assistant forum, because they kind of tell you like when they expect, like some students have some insight of like when things get released. I don't know, maybe Reddit for the UCs,
Yeah.
but I remember, I think it's May, early May, that you find out for the UCs.
It's filed in April. But there's law and basically when each year is out,
Mhm.
because it uses last year's prediction. That which specialty would you like to go into? Which would you avoid?
I wouldn't say avoid.
I don't know what just happened, but if you have any questions, just put in the chat. I don't know what just happened, but there's another question from the officers. Do you plan on moving to another location once you're done with PA school?
Like in terms of like from Santa Maria or staying in California?
Just
Does
anywhere, like,
Right now, I don't have a specific area where I want to work at, but when I'm leaning towards maybe, it's just probably staying home, Northern California. But I'm open to moving in different areas of the world.
and someone asks, during moments of burnout, what keeps you driven to do what you do every day?
You got to set goals for yourself, honestly. The biggest goal I have right now is passing the pants. And I know burnout can get to a lot of students, especially with you guys being young and facing, because these classes that you guys are taking are honestly one of the hardest classes you guys are going to take. That's why they call it weed classes, because those are ways to like weed students out and stuff. But just set the goal in front of you. Like, I want to become a nurse one day. I want to become a PA one day. I want to become a physician. Just really, just think about the goal. And honestly, it might sound clicky, but just never give up on your goals. Honestly, just really just stay driven as an individual, and just tell yourself, if I could pass these classes at De Anza College, you can honestly just pass any classes from any university that you guys transfer to, or any classes for your graduate program.
I have a question specifically about undergrad.
Mhm.
How is your transferring like journey from De Anza to UCLA? Was it like difficult, or did you have a really good time at UCLA compared to De Anza, stuff like that?
I'm gonna be honest, I liked my time at De Anza better than UCLA. It shocked a lot of people saying that, but I actually have, like, I would say close student faculty, like from a perspective of being close to our professors, because they really take the time to sit down and talk to you. Because when you transfer to like say like UCLA, it's gonna be hard to get an office hour appointment with a professor, because you're gonna be taking classes with like 300, 400 other students who are gonna want an office hour, and you're gonna end up talking to the teacher assistant. But going back to your question, the transition was, I would say it was smooth, because my best friend at the time, he went to UCLA too. He actually went straight from high school to UCLA. He was like a big factor in me transferring there. And also I had family down in LA. That was like another smooth factor of transitioning. But I would say it's definitely nerve-wracking, because you're going on to a bigger program than De Anza, because you're going from, I think De Anza is what, like 10, 15,000 students to more than double, triple that. But to make it, but I know a lot of colleges have, when you transfer, they have like a lot of transferring programs, because UCLA had a big transfer program. So they try to make the transition as smooth as possible. So our dorms were actually with other transfer students. So it can be people who are like close to you, and you fill out a form for people who have like similar interests as you.
Yeah, I heard that the transfer community is very
It's welcoming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever had, this is just like a random question, but have you ever had like a bad roommate situation?
The answer is yes.
Oh.
I did.
Oh.
I did. Best way to resolve it, just be an adult about it, just talk about it with them.
Thank you. Yeah,
Mhm.
because my friend is currently having like a really bad roommate situation. So I'm just like.
The best way, like I said, just be an adult, just talk about it. And there's obviously gonna be like the residential hall officers are gonna be there, just talk to them. Worst case scenario, you just move to a different room location.
I have a question. This might be kind of off topic, but once you did transfer to UCLA, like, I guess this is kind of going off what you said, but how did you get into kind of like the student life, the social life, like the different clubs and programs? Because I know like at UC, those are very competitive to get into.
For the clubs and social life, it's just networking, honestly. When you meet someone, they're gonna know someone else, and that person's gonna know someone else. down the road. So the biggest thing for, especially if it's a large college, is just network. Usually like UCLA, they hold fairs at the beginning of their fall term. And I would just go to the club fairs and just like kind of network and talk to different groups that you're interested in. And I know for social life, if you're interested like joining like a fraternity or a sorority, you would just, I think they hosted events as well. So just go to those events as soon as possible.
And we have a question from the officers. What aspects of being a PA are fascinating for you? Going back to PA.
Yeah, what aspects of becoming a PA are fat? There's quite a lot, but one thing that really stands out is having that patient-provider relationship. The reason why it drove me away from being from other special or other healthcare professions is the level of autonomy you have with becoming a PA. Even though I said doctors have more autonomy, it was just that fine balance of having that autonomy, but having that relationship with your patient. Because, for example, being able to shout out my ortho PA, we would have a trauma patient come in with a broken hip, like an elder lady who just fell, broke her hip. And over time, just working with her, performing surgery, ordering physical therapy for that patient, you're able to see that patient progressively grow, and not grow that, but rehab each day. And eventually they're being discharged and being able to walk on their own 2 feet again out of the hospital. And that's the type of relationship I want with my patients, is for them to have a better life and also educate them on specific things. Because what I noticed too is that a lot of issues with just prescribing medications. Here, take your lisinopril, here, take your statin. I'm more of a person that kind of wants to hopefully drive their patients into a healthier lifestyle, into coaching their patients like, hey, you shouldn't just rely on your medications. You should go on something called the DASH diet for hypertension, or you should at least exercise more before we start putting on these medications. And that's what something that really stands out for me of being a PA, creating those great relations with each unique type of patient.
And I have a question that's kind of related to PA school. So you just finished your finals.
Yeah.
How was it first?
I passed.
That's good.
Yeah.
How are the finals like structured specifically at your school? Like, what are they-
Like a finals week.
Yeah.
So this past finals week, last week, so Monday we actually had like a midterm on the Monday because there's so many systems we had to go through. We had our hematology midterm on Monday. Tuesday, we had our OSCEs. Do you guys know what an OSCE is? So what OSCEs are is that you have a simulated patient and they're gonna come in with like a chief complaint, say like a cough or something. Then you're gonna act as the PA or the provider to work up that patient. And you're having a proctor who's gonna watch you through a video and they're gonna grade you based on that. So you're gonna have to take an HPI or history of the patient. Then you're also gonna have to do a full-on physical exam of that patient. So that's what basically an OSCE is. I think it stands for objective simulated clinical experience, or examination. But so for Wednesday, we would have our patient assessment final. Thursday was our professional practice. So that one that went over to the ethics of being a PA, the laws, the statutes of becoming a provider. And Friday was our clinical med final. So our clinical med final included anatomy, physiology, pathophys, clin med, and pharmacology. And that's a typical week of finals week. So Monday through Friday, we have an exam. Then after the exam, even though we come to class for like an hour or two, it's just study for the rest of the day. And I highly recommend do not pull all-nighters.
Kind of like going based on that, do you have any study tips for like study tips that like study hacks for you or anything like that? Like, did you start studying like a month before, 2 weeks before, or in terms of like study methods, what works the best? Because I know like active recall and like those memorization stuff works, but what did you use?
For PA school specifically, I'm gonna be honest, think I'm still finding and trying to develop like a formal study plan. Because the biggest thing like that my professors told me was to have a growth mindset. Because studying for cardio is gonna be different from studying from home. Studying from home is gonna be different from learning ENT or dermatology because of the different systems. But what works for me are it's just going outside, like, trying to think of the word I'm looking for, but basically using outside resources, YouTube. We have something called Osmosis, which is geared towards PA students, and they kind of like give a breakdown of like what specific disease we're learning. And have you guys heard of Anki?
It's
Yes.
so confusing. I don't know.
Confusing. Oh my gosh, I gotta give a Anki 101 class or something, but I use Anki and that really helps, especially with pharmacology. I didn't have that when I was here. I had to use those old school index cards and write them. I think Quizlet was probably just developing.
It's a subscription now. So,
Quizlet?
yeah.
You have to pay now.
Anki's free.
That's how I passed anatomy and physiology.
Oh
but
my
now it's
gosh.
not free.
Just get Anki then. Yeah.
I made Anki flashcards for my bio midterm and I failed.
Oh my god.
Because I did the same for my chemistry. But the
Mhm.
thing is, it's such a simple application.
Mhm.
It's so simple that I don't know what to press, so I just gave up.
Oh,
Exactly.
By that time, it's like 3 hours. Like,
Exactly. That's why.
Um,
Okay, but
There's-
to be, sorry to cut you off, but to be fair,
Mhm.
the only reason I did not pass was because I had Professor McPartland, and if you know her.
Elizabeth McPartland?
Yeah.
She's still here.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Not that way, no.
That didn't sound very positive.
What's that?
That didn't sound very positive.
No, she is, I didn't take it.
Like, I was-
I'm just surprised because she's been here for a long time.
Yeah.
But she's a great professor. Ms. Partland I didn't take her, but I've heard she's a wonderful professor.
But
honestly. No, I'm not saying that.
But the methods have moved online.
Oh, really?
So biology
I see.
online is terrible. Biology online is terrible. That's all I'm gonna say.
I would say, yeah, it's hard because you're not getting that hands-on exposure,
Yeah.
especially with like more of the ecology. You would have to do more field trips.
Mhm.
But most of my things, like going back to PA school, most of my professors, even though I'm in a class, most of my professors are on Zoom, actually. And we're more of a hybrid program. That's why we only have class Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And Wednesday, Friday, most of my professors are actually online and they're giving us that case and we actually like have to send them like, they're gonna review it through like a Google Doc or something. And I think that's how life is actually transitioning into more online. I know a few more PA programs are actually going through that route of actually doing a lot of things hybrid for remote. And really the only things that you really need is like the labs to be in person. But like I said, honestly, I think they're kind of preparing you guys for what it's gonna be like for like grad school and nursing school or whichever program you choose. Does that kind of answer your question?
I have another question. How did you deal with like financials, like budgeting and like paying for school and like
Mhm.
working and things like that? Like, do you have any?
That's a great question. Financial aid, FAFSA, another one too. There's a lot of health scholarships out there. The one I'm currently actually applying for is called the NHSCS. And what that is if you work for an underserved program as like a PA or nurse or a doctor, they'll pay up to, I think, $50,000 every program. So it's just only a 2-year commitment. But those are like the biggest things are just looking for scholarships and just taking out a loan. That's what I did for UCLA. I actually had to take a private loan because I guess I didn't qualify for a federal loan from FAFSA. So I had to take a private loan for that aspect and work in the gap year to help pay off my tuition.
And I think this was also like a question question before our Zoom crashed. But one of the participants asked, what are some opportunities to work in?
Like I said before, working in San Jose, I think San Jose has a lot of like homeless shelter programs and a lot of food bank programs. I would just look into that, researching local food banks because PA schools really value working with food banks. You just like, even though like, for example, blood drives are super valuable in that aspect, but they also take considerate looking at like a holistic a whole person view of saying that you can work in underserved communities, not just outside. They just want to see you as a person, basically, not just working in medicine, like what you do outside of medicine as well.
Yeah, and I want to add that our opportunities and resources spreadsheet also includes food banks, just local opportunities in the Bay Area. Even though that's not the main focus of the spreadsheet, we still have a section of it. So if you're interested, just access this spreadsheet, put it in the chat, and it should be under recurring opportunities or resources. So yeah, that's what that's what I wanted to make a comment about.
Yeah.
So I'm an international student.
Mhm.
So for someone like me, I'm probably gonna move around a lot, not just like in and out of state, but more like around the country. Just like whatever program I get into or whatever they're doing at the moment.
Mhm.
So for someone that's moving around, would you recommend like a PA program? Let's say I might do it here, but I might want to work elsewhere, like back home. Would you?
Yeah. Which country are you from? Do you mind me asking?
Myanmar.
Myanmar. Do you plan on going back there?
Probably.
Probably, because from my knowledge, because I know, for example, doctors and stuff, here's another difference. They can kind of, I might be wrong on this, I have to double check my facts on this, but they can practice elsewhere. I know, because my cousin's doing his medical school in Barbados, and he's gonna practice here as a doctor. You might be able to do that if you became like a doctor or a nurse. I don't think so for a physician assistant if you plan to go back to your home country, because there's just a lot of laws and regulations of becoming a provider in a PA aspect. But if you like plan on, like in the aspect you said, like stay like moving around, it's only a 2 to 3 year program. That's the advantage of it. It's pretty fast. So you can just do your, say you want to do your, got accepted in New York or something, just did that for 2 to 3 years, and you're free to move around as long as you can't pass your certifications.
So I have a question. So what is the expected income for like a new PA, and is it based on specialty or just experience?
Both.
Oh,
For a new grad, from what I've heard, this is just what I've heard. So it depends like what state you're in. Fortunately, being California, we're one of the higher paying states. So for a new grad, I've heard around like 90 to 100K. But eventually when you work up, I've heard of dermatology PAs eventually making 300K.
Yeah.
But don't do it for the money.
Yeah.
Like do it for what.
Oh, yeah. I heard that.
Yeah. Honestly, some family members have pushed me into working in dermatology, but I'm not a derm person. I'm not a skin person. I'm more of like bones and surgical specialties or primary care, something I'm more interested in.
It might not make a lot of sense, but what can you do, I guess during PA school to kind of increase your chances of like finding a job right after or getting employed?
Yeah, it's networking. Just basically like who you know. For example, my girlfriend works at Kaiser. It's super hard to get into the Kaiser system. I didn't say this, but her mom works at Kaiser. My mom works at Kaiser. My grandma works at Kaiser. She works at Kaiser. Yeah, it's all about networking. And I've heard for like a great paying area or a great paying company like Kaiser, you really have to know someone to like really get in, or it's by years of experience. But how I've heard from PA students is networking through your clinical rotations when you rotate. I've heard some students getting hired through them like right away after rotations because of how well they've done on the rotations. But it's all about networking. I highly recommend anything on LinkedIn too, if you can. That's another way for networking.
Oh, yeah, so I've been trying to become a volunteer at Kaiser for like 2 months now. It's so difficult.
Talk to her. She was like,
Everyone Yeah, they're super strict.
Oh yeah, they're super strict. But I would just reach out to San Jose and Santa Clara. We also have they also have their like medical offices too. Like I think Skyport right near the airport. There's Kaiser Milpitas too. I would just have, I think Kaiser Santa Clara has the biggest volunteer department. When I worked as an EMT, I would see volunteers like everywhere in the hospital. But Regional Medical Center just opened their volunteer program again, from what I've heard. And that's another great hospital to work at because they're a trauma center.
I just want to make a comment. If you have any questions, just put it in the chat, but there's a question from the officers. Was there anything special you had to do to prepare for PA school? Like anything in particular?
Like in terms of prereqs or patient care hours or before just getting in?
Just anything.
Just anything?
Honestly,
All the above?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I stated in my presentation, try to get as much patient care hours as possible. For me, that was working the ER, working inpatient rehabilitation. Also was, for me, special. I think what stood out for me was my patient care experience, actually, is having unique, because I worked in both rehab and working in the PD. So I got to see patients in the inpatient side, and I got to see patients on the ER side. I think that's what really stood out for me, just having different variable disciplines of what your patient care hours are. I would say maintain a GPA at least, be honest, 3.5, because it's getting more competitive each year. And like I said, take Spanish if you guys can, because there's a lot of, yeah, I know. It's
I barely like can English.
Spanish is easier than English, so yes. But I highly recommend taking another language because it just shows you like it just shows like a different aspect to the different to the committee. Like, oh, they can speak Spanish because it comes in handy, especially for like. Have you guys all had patient care experience yet?
Yeah.
Have you had quite a few Spanish speaking patients?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in our state, in our demographic, in our area, San Jose, you're gonna get a lot of Spanish speaking patients. So that's something I recommend so you can look different from other applicants. And like I stated before, I think for me, my volunteer experience as well, working with pediatrics, rehabbing them with occupational therapy. So just having different types of volunteer experience as well.
What if you're like really bad at the language, but then you can say
Oh.
some words? Would that get you by?
I a job in retail because I work in the mall and like everyone that comes in speaks Latin. It's like they only speak Spanish. And they start asking me questions and I'm like, oh, lo siento, something. And then they'll continue to like ask me more questions. So I think I've gotten like used to it a little bit now. Like I understand what they're saying. I'll just be like, okay, now we need to like just give me a minute. I'll help you out.
Honestly, that actually helped. That actually helped me with working ED, even though like I took high school in Spanish and some here in De Anza, I really had to like refresh, and that actually helped me because like the more you hear something, the more you're gonna recall it. And I want to try that because if you tell, I know for some admissions committee, if you tell them that you speak Spanish, they'll actually ask you everything in Spanish. Yeah, they'll actually they'll do your interview in Spanish to make sure you're not lying aspect. I know
What if it's elementary? Sorry.
elementary, because it should be fine, because I know CCMB, Cal State Monterey Bay, for their PA program, you have to take a year of Spanish, same thing with USC. And before, when you get accepted, I think you're gonna have to do a Spanish test too, yeah. That's from what I've heard from their, is that right? Because you were at their info sec recently, right?
Yeah, we have a year of Spanish. Once you get into the program, you have to take a test just to see where you're at.
Yeah. That's why Spanish is becoming like more and more valuable these days. Like you don't have to take it, but it's just like I highly recommend you guys do, because a lot of PA programs in California are starting to require it, you know?
Would you recommend it for, oh, yeah, you basically said for any like healthcare profession, right?
I think it'll increase your chances, like if you guys want to go into like nursing or becoming a doc, and your DO, because it'll make you stand out on your application.
Yeah.
What are the chances that?
I'm not even good in my second language, so it's like,
It's not hard.
Are you a native speaker though?
yeah, you're the English speaker.
It's
You're like,
20
it's
years
not
of
hard.
You speak Spanish?
Yeah,
Awesome.
for the parents in immigrate to Mexico.
Okay, what part of Mexico?
Guadalajara,
That's Guadalajara too.
and then Veracruz.
Okay.
Like Jalisco and then Veracruz. But perfect side.
Yeah. I've always thought about doing a medical mission out in Mexico, but they're kind of pricey. But if you guys get the chance to, I would highly recommend doing a medical mission. I know some of my colleagues have done medical missions, and that really helped them because I know your skills up.
Oh, those we, sorry. Oh, I was gonna ask, it was just like a joke thing. I was gonna say, what are the chances that speaking like a very, very minority language is gonna help?
I think it really helps, honestly. If you speak a second language, it doesn't have to be Spanish. Like, if you speak Mandarin, Vietnamese, Korean, Hindi, it's just more like,
We speak Burmese. No one that's not Burmese speaks it.
I think it'll stand out in your application, but because you won't know what patient you're gonna see, that's why. Because let's say you're in a hospital, right? I've seen this before. No one knew what language you're speaking because there was no family member at all. They just came in. We don't know what language it is. And I forgot what language it is, but someone spoke it and they came in so clutch, honestly, and they were able to get the full HPI of why they were right here. And it was able to help the doctor so much. So even though you speak that one minority of that language, I think it goes a long way in that aspect. And it will, like, I think honestly, I just feel like it really helps. It'll help your chances of getting it, honestly, because it makes you stand out as an applicant.
Exactly. Now I wish I took Saturday school. Just use Duolingo, like, yeah. No, there's a way.
Just be like us practicing.
How and when do you get to like choose or get into the specialty you wanted to get?
Right after you graduate, actually, that's what's pretty cool. That's what's pretty cool about being a PA. I think that's what kind of like differentiates us from like becoming like a medical doctor or doctor of osteopathic medicine. Because they have to go to residency and you're kind of stuck with that specialty for the rest of your life while being a PA. This is something that kind of drew me in becoming a PA too. You could actually change your specialty anytime you want. So say you just graduated, if you apply for an ortho job and they hire you, they'll train you on the job to become like an ortho physician assistant or cardio PA or any other specialty. So you can become whatever, or you can do whatever specialty you choose to do after PA school.
So like everyone goes through like the same thing, same classes.
Yeah. we have, for example, there's 7 rotations that every PA student has to do. It's gonna be ER, family med, internal med, peds, women's health, surgery, and behavioral health. You're gonna have to do those rotations, and that's what every PA school has to go through. So that's how most PA students like kind of figure out what they want to do. Because I met a lot of PAs that were gonna go into like some totally different like cardiac arrest surgery. But I hope that answers your question.
Then do you think those 2 years in PA school will prepare you for
And so
the workforce?
I think so. That's why we train more. That's why PAs, they do more on the job training than what a physician does, because a physician does like 7 years of residency for surgery after. But as the time goes on, you're gonna learn more. Then it's all about trust too and privileges. The doctor might give you the privilege to do something more under your scope of practice, and the more you're gonna do, like to answer your question, you're probably gonna get paid more eventually.
So since PA work under the doctor, if something goes wrong and like, let's say the PA gets sued, is the doctor also like involved?
Yes, the doctors, we actually did a case just on that. Yeah, for professional practice. Because right now, each state has their own regulation. California is probably one of the more stricter ones. I know in RED Watsonville, every signature that the PA signed, the doctor had to co-sign with the PA for their plan, and if they were to get discharged or to be admitted, the doctor would have to sign off as well. So, like I said before, the doctor can override what the PA can say because of autonomy level.
Did you say textbook learning or hands-on person experience contributes to this development?
I'd say both. Because what's that?
Like equally 50-50 or?
Yeah, I would say so, because in order for you to do the hands-on part of like saying your ACLS, which is when a patient learning how like when a patient is in cardiac arrest, even though you know how to do the CPR and administer medications, you have to know what type of medications and the adverse effects you're going to be putting in that patient. Yeah, so I would say 50-50, knowing how to do it and knowing how to apply it.
And do you think you currently have a good work-life balance as a PA student? Do you think?
I would say so, because I get to go to the beach every weekend.
Oh,
We're going down to
nice.
Santa Maria, so I get to go for a beach jog. So yeah, I would say so, because even though my program's like 2.5 hour, 3-hour drive, every other weekend I get to go home. And even though I'm going home, I'm still studying, but if I'm able to go home, I would say I would have a good work-life balance. It's just a matter of how much you could plan, or how much you plan your things, and how much goals you set during the week. Because I know there's students out there, they just need a better plan, and that's what I tell some of my colleagues who are perhaps struggling. That's where I help them. I'm like, hey, you got to do this versus that, you know. So I would say right now, I'm hoping not to jinx it, I have a good work-life balance.
Yeah, that planner that can go.
Yeah, that's Simon Collier gave me 7 years ago.
Yeah, because sometimes, like for me, honestly, this might just be me. I like plan out my day. I don't do anything else. I don't do it. I don't like follow through with it. So I end up like studying 16 hours straight or something. I don't know. Like, you know, it's so bad, but
Yeah,
how
don't
you
do that.
stay- how do you
Don't
stay
study
on to
16
plan?
hours, because one of my PA faculty members told me like 10 hours, like the max, because after 10 hours, you're just not gonna retain it. Like, you're just gonna be staring, like, say, you're looking at like a chemistry equation or something, you're looking at acid-base titrations, and you're just staring at like you're just looking at the pH and like, what the heck does that mean? You know? So I would say cut it after 10 hours because what's the point of you losing sleep and you're just going to the exam all burned out, all tired? I would say what really helped me at UCLA too, that's translating over well, is group studying. Yeah, just lots and lots of group studying with peers.
With like group studying,
Mhm.
I've like joined a few group study groups
Mhm.
and it's like, it's really hard to focus, I think, because it's just like one person will like laugh or like say something about topic. And then we're like 2 hours in talking about like Netflix or something. And then it's just, and also like what Megan said, I also tend to like do what you do. I use a Notion app to just kind of like keep all my stuff organized. And I make a to-do list.
It's awesome.
Yeah, but I'll just like go to the library when it like opens and then I'll just like sit there.
That's what I did.
Yeah, and just like
Yeah.
study and then just neglect like everything else. Because I feel like I always feel guilty if I'm not studying.
Kind of like imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome,
Mm.
yeah. I don't know if you experienced that, but like, how do you get over it?
Of course, I had imposter syndrome, especially when I was down in LA. But I did the same exact thing when I was here years ago. I would go to that library, spend most of my time in that library. Like what you said about the groups, I know some groups are hard, but what I do currently is like I study by myself. So my routine, more of my routine is like maybe like Monday through Thursday or Monday through Wednesday, I'll study by myself. Then on the weekends, when I understand the material, I'll talk about it with all my friends. And maybe that can help with for you. It's just maybe like just do your self-studying like Monday through Wednesday or Thursday, and just talk about it with your group over the weekend or something. So you can be able to teach them, because for me, I'm more of a teacher than a listener. I really have to like explain things for me to understand concepts. So I would say just understand the material and probably just teach a group. And for me, getting like over the imposter syndrome, it's just you just have to do it, honestly. Just do your goal, just the Nike sign, honestly, because you're gonna look back years. Like for me, it's just like, wow, I graduated from UCLA and I never thought I was gonna get into that program. When I was there, of course, I had imposter syndrome, but just kind of tuning out the noise, tuning out the distractions, and just focusing and working hard. You guys are just all gonna graduate and just look back and reflect on it. And I'll tell you guys, like, time flies. Like when I was telling Dominique, I was literally just walking on this campus. This is my first time on the campus for like over 5 years. And I was like, I feel like I was just here yesterday, honestly. Yeah.
I have a question. What was the hardest course sequence or course you've ever taken?
Everyone's favorite chemistry.
Chemistry or general chemistry or
General
organic
chem.
chemistry?
General chem. I took mine actually at Foothill, my first sequence. Then I think I got a C in Chem 1A, so I retook it here at De Anza. But I would say chemistry, but the second hardest, but the one I learned from the most would probably be the 6 series here. Biochem or bio 6A, 6B. Yeah.
How, do you have any tips? Because next quarter I'm doing Chem 1A and Bio 1A together.
Ooh.
Like, do you like what do you?
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Like, what do you recommend to like review like content
Mhm.
wise before like the quarter starts?
I feel like for chem, I feel like you don't really have to review anything because they're just gonna go over the basics of like the first week or two. You just go over like the kind of the foundations. It's like for Chem 1A, like what is an atom
Oh,
and stuff. Yeah.
because I took the
Mhm.
prerequisite,
Like Chem 25, I believe?
yeah, I took Chem 25.
Oh, you should be fine then. You don't have to, just review, I would say, don't even review.
Don't even review.
Because you already took Chem 25.
Yeah.
And for me, when I took Chem 1A, last time I took chemistry was in high school. Yeah,
AP?
no.
Oh.
I mean, I did AP chemistry. Yeah. The reason why I said don't review is just because you're gonna learn all that stuff again, and it's just like in a bit more advanced way in Chem 1A. For Bio 6A, my recommendations, you don't have to do it. Anki helps a lot. If I had Anki at the time, I'd definitely do it. Let's see.
I actually took Bio 6A this quarter,
Mhm.
but I dropped it because the stuff. But I think something I learned was just knowing everything by heart. Because with like the way, or at least the way her tests were formed, is you had to know everything on the study guide
Mhm.
plus the extra resources by heart, so that when a question pops up, you have 30 seconds.
Do you go to
to
office
answer.
hour?
Select all the
Yeah.
five.
Oh.
Those questions, oh my god. But I just had like a fear because I did not improve by like the second exam.
Mhm.
And the third exam was on the day
Mm-hmm.
that was like the deadline to drop with a W. So I was studying like 17 hours a day. I was doing everything I could, but it's just, so I just decided to drop it.
No, I definitely feel you because I was in the same boat as you for Chem 1C, and I actually did take a W for that. I would say go to office hours if you can. Make Anki cards out of the study guide questions. That's what I kind of do because we kind of have something called framing questions with TA school, and I put those up on an Anki. And if I don't understand it, obviously keep trying to memorize it, but not just memorizing, understanding the concept. If you don't understand, I would just write it down and bring it up for office hours. Let's see. For bio, I would just take out high yield stuff too. That's what we do in TA school because there's just so much information thrown at you, especially with being the quarter system, only 12 weeks. Just really pick out what's high yield. And if you don't feel like it's important, just go over to your professor and like, hey, is this more of a concept I should focus on versus this concept? Yeah.
Because I think something I also tried doing last quarter with bio was understanding every single slide and also like doing all the reading.
Mhm.
And then I guess when the tests would come, it like the questions,
Mhm.
I guess the concepts that I thought were important, like we had no questions. Versus the concepts where I was like, okay, this is gonna come on the test, but it
Mhm.
might not come on the test, and then
It shows up on the
it
test.
shows up,
Yeah.
but it also be like very, very, very specific.
Yeah.
So specific, yeah, I guess that kind of like trips me out too.
Yeah, that's why I dropped that class too, because it was like 2 years ago. I passed out the hill, bio, but yeah, it's just that the online environment was not,
Especially the lab portions.
yeah, because her lectures are just PowerPoint slides.
There's
So-
That's how PE school is too, usually.
Oh,
It's like,
okay,
that's,
right.
no, I'm not saying like that, but it's just like medical school is gonna be like that too. Because I've seen my cousin's lectures and it's like death by PowerPoint. Some programs, ours aren't death by PowerPoint, but you're gonna have, I'll be honest, like some of my PowerPoints are 300, 400 slides.
I was gonna
Yeah.
mention that. Like I always see people on TikTok like post stuff and they're like, oh, 500 slides for like neuroscience.
Honestly, it seems like a lot, but what you have to do is just pick out the high yield things. Like you gotta see like, well, I'm grateful for my professors. They kind of highlight, like they'll put things in red on their lectures and like, know this, or, like, because honestly, like knowing the whole body, the whole anatomy, it's like extremely hard to know every bone, every muscle, every tendon, every ligament in the body, unless you so specialize like in ortho or something. But I get what you're saying where it is difficult, especially with the bio 6A and 6B are really tough for a reason. And that's why they call them weed classes again, to weed out students, but I don't like. My best recommendation for those classes, I just really didn't study guide, I'm just going to office hour, you can.
Then this is kind of like
Mhm.
relating to course requirements.
Yeah.
Then for PA programs, I saw that some programs require organic chemistry, some don't,
Yeah.
I believe.
Mhm.
Did you take organic?
I did not
chemistry?
take OChem.
Oh.
Yeah.
And physics is not required.
Physics is not required for most programs as well.
So that's the difference between med school.
Yeah, that's another difference is, most med schools have a set for, like, you take your year of OChem, your physics, you take your MCAT. For PA schools, it's more, like I said, each program has their different prereqs, like some might require a year of OChem, so don't require OChem, some require the GRE, some don't require the GRE. And it's just up to you guys to like look at different programs and stuff, but I know a lot more programs in California are starting to have OChem now as a prerequisite. They're starting it, like I know UC Davis is just adding it, I believe. But I would say just look at the program requirements, because some in California do require Spanish at USC and CCMB, and others don't. Yeah.
So thinking about your exams,
Mhm.
how are they formatted? I know there's clinical ones, right, where you have to,
Mhm.
but are they multiple choice?
Yeah.
Are they essays? Are they?
That's a great question. Most of our exams are multiple choice, and how they're provided is like a vignette, like say like a 50-year-old male patient came in with shortness of breath. They have these signs and symptoms, and they give you like 4 choices usually.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
It's like clinical anatomy.
it's like, yeah. So they'll throw in like anatomy questions, like not like, oh, where's this bone? Like some of them, yeah, like you'll have some questions like, oh, there's this tendon right here
Yeah.
pointing at it. And other questions will give you more like a clinical vignette of anatomy, like, oh, patient broke this bone around this area or sore foot, sorry. Or yeah, it's just more of that. It's just more vignette style.
And do they like put you under time pressure with those like questions?
Usually say if we have 100 questions, it'll be 100 minute. I mean, 100 minute, yeah. So a minute per question usually. But some of the questions you're gonna get like that. Yeah. Usually most of my class they finish within the time frame too. Because it's either you know or you don't type of questions. Yeah.
And they're not with the vocal.
No, they're not. None of our tests are. We do it for like a lockdown browser, even though we have like almost 100 students. It's just like, it's just locked down. You can't access any like other websites. We obviously have a proctor walking around, but we put like all our backpacks like in like a little cubby on the side, so make sure there's like no cheating.
It's like the SAT.
Yeah. Because if like you're cheating in PA school, it's like you're cheating your patients, kind of. Yeah.
Imagine like someone dies because you cheated and you like.
It's just like things like, yeah, you know, it's just like.
Google something while they're in the room with you.
Yeah.
Wait, so is it like, do you have like an actual grade or is it pass or no pass?
Our school is pass no pass.
Oh.
Yeah.
So even if you get like an A, that's the same thing as like
Let's see.
a C. Okay.
Yeah. But always just strive for the best.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Then do they give you like the score?
Yeah, you'll know your score like within the day, usually. Yeah. So my school likes to do a lot of like group stuff. So we'll take our test and we'll do a group exam like right after. It'll be the same questions.
Oh.
And it's like a way for,
Our class does that. My group does that, at least in my classroom.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's how it should be because it gives more collaboration. Like it's more, it's like if you don't understand this question, someone else will help, who understands it helps you, that aspect and teaches you. Yeah, so that totally translates to the PA school.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's like it prevents you from crying. Because now there are like people around, so you can't cry.
Yeah.
Or you need somebody to cry with.
Yeah. When you suffer together, you just make the best.
Oh my
Your
God.
closest bond. So we'll accept one more question, or if there's no more questions, we can come to an end. Does anyone have any last minute questions?
Yes.
We can accept one more question.
I will ask a question, if you don't mind. I wanted to bring back the subject of imposter syndrome. What you said and what you said, I'm 50 years old. I've been teaching for a long time, and I have to say, even I have imposter syndrome, and I've had it since I was in community college,
Mhm.
graduate school, and even as an instructor. And so I feel like a lot of it is not, you're not going to get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
But the way I've coped with it has been fighting a community. You know, because sometimes you go to PA school and some of these kids have had like, you know, they're, I don't know, have had tutors and
Yeah.
gone to boarding
Yeah.
schools and things like that, very different
Different backgrounds.
different
Exactly.
backgrounds. And so I feel like that's, you know, but if you find your niche, like your group of people who are gonna support you, I feel like that's what,
Exactly, and that's what I
you
have.
know.
I have my group, and they honestly, we passed every exam together. Yeah, because my group's much older than me, and I'm 25, and my groups, they're in their 40s, and they all have kids, most of them. Yeah, and they're just going back to school because they have a passion for medicine. They want to increase their scope of practice as being a PA, and just having that group, honestly, if something's working for you like in that, stick with it. And that's what's been helping me through PSL. There's my group of friends.
So we're gonna wrap it up. So thank you, everyone. Say thank you, or you could spam in the chat since we do have a virtual audience as well. But everyone here can say, can we thank Seth for coming in today, being our first guest speaker of the 3 years, over 3 years. So let me just share screen. Okay. Wait, let me see. Okay. Let's say thank you. Look at the chat. It says thank you. They say thank you.
I can put my email in for.
Oh,
any-
really?
yeah,
Okay.
for-
Can you put your email in?
yeah. I'll use my old school email. So.
Yeah. So thank you, Seth, for coming in
Of
today
course.
to talk with us and share basically what is CPA, transfer advice, PA advice. I'm pretty sure all of our members learn more about it. I especially learn more. And as always, Seth is putting in his email, so he's sending it in. No?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Seth's email. So if you'd like to ask him more questions, just refer to the email in the chat. And the word of the day, let me see. The word of the day is matcha because we didn't know what to put. So, here's the sign out sheet. If you'd like to earn an MOA point, please sign out. So, and if you have any questions or concerns, just let us know. You can sign up. You guys can sign up. So, yeah. Yeah, so please, if you'd like to earn MOA point, and like I mentioned before, earning MOA points, if you get 75% of the maximum amount of points each quarter, you're considered an active member, and active members have benefits such as, it's on the sheet. It's on the sheet. It's on the sheet. And the word of the day is matcha.
If you guys, if anyone is interested in becoming an officer next year, active members are prioritized.
This
so-
is it's on the sheet. This is the sheet, and this is, yeah. So why should I sign in, sign out? And why should be an active member? If you're interested in learning more about it. But yeah, but if anyone does not have any questions, then you guys are free to leave. And thank you so much for attending today. What is happening? What is she doing? What is that?
It's for the vlog.
What vlog? We're probably not gonna edit it.
Yes, we are. I'll edit it.
Okay. So yeah, thank you guys for coming.
I'm okay.
Okay, if you want to stay in the vlog, I guess. Okay. What's happening?
What's happening? Our channel. Oh my God. When legs turn. No, don't shoot us. You're like stopping.
Thank you.
Yeah, this makes me want an iPad. Yeah, that's a good. No, because I'm trying to like my friends about it. I was like, oh, dude, it's so
Oh, I forgot to stop sharing. Goodbye.